All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started because it's being recorded right now on Facebook Live. If you are going to be watching now or later at your convenience, this is Unity of Springfield. I'm Paul Day. It is January 18th, 2026, and today in Unity's adult class, we are teaching from a book called Jesus Through Jewish Eyes. And this is written by a woman named Beatrice Brutteau. I studied this book when I was going through seminary back in 2012. The book was written in 2001, so it's roughly 25 years old now. Beatrice Brutteau is very closely aligned with New Thought. So it takes shape now she's the editor. So she's trying to get information to kind of, my seminary was about all religions. And so she's trying to bring everybody together. She wants Jewish. Sue, let me give you a sheet here. Hello, Sue. Good morning. So anyway, she is very related to New Thought, but she wouldn't call herself New Thought. But if you look at her philosophy, it's very aligned with what we think, what Unity thinks, what New Thought thinks. So, so in the book, it's every chapter is by a different author. All of these authors are rabbis or Jewish scholars, or they're religiously active Jews exploring who Jesus was from their historical Jewish experience. Jesus then is going to be defined by his own culture, not by the Christian culture, not by what was written decades or centuries later, but what actually took place in their own family. They see, if you look back at the history of Judaism, it was actually a tribe, right? Everybody was in a tribe back then. And Judaism was this tribe. So they're seeing Jesus as how he taught and how he lived in that culture. So it would be like saying, someone trying to explain to you what your father was like, and you go, hey, hang on a minute. This guy is my dad, I think I might know him a little bit better than you. And I think that's where we're kind of looking at this book, is that they're saying, okay, you're taking stuff here about Jesus and trying to tell us what he was saying, and hang on, because I think we might have something to say about that. And so that's where this book is coming from. Okay. Now, at the same time, these authors that put this book together are they're wanting to have dialogue. They're wanting to have dialogue with Christians and with other religions in order for people to understand. We all want to become closer. We all want to understand each other. And at the same time, they're saying, we're not going to come to a consensus. We already know what we believe, but we want you to understand what we believe. We kind of know what you believe too. So that's how it is. And it's like they can understand how the Christian religion got started. By the way, I think everybody knows this. Jesus did not start the Christian religion. And so they're going, okay, well, I think it's time for you guys to maybe see what we saw, what we know. The other thing I'm going to do, and this sheet in front of you here that you have, we're going to be stopping that about 42. So no matter how far we get through it, stops. I'm going to give you another sheet because the important thing to me in this class discussion is going to be how does this affect us as New Thought practitioners or people of Unity? Okay, because it's Brutto's thinking, as well as many other people, that New Thought and Unity are much, much closer aligned philosophically and spiritually with Judaism than with Christianity. Now that's kind of a heavy statement, but if you really look at it, we are very similar in many respects. Okay? So that's what's important to me to get that across and for us to discuss that. And that's something, that, we might not know a lot about Judaism, but we sure know about New Thought.
Is your mic on?
Oh, I'm sorry, Don.
Yeah,
Okay. How's that? Okay, I'm not going to go back from the front. Okay. And as I said again, we're not going to aim for, she says that the authors are not aiming for consensus. There's a diversity of Jewish voices. Not everybody agrees in the Jewish religion, of course, as we don't in Unity or New Thought or even in the Christian religion. How many denominations are there in the Christian religion? Thousands, right? So not everybody agrees, no matter what religion they're in. So again, we're trying to find similarities between New Thought and Judaism, and that's what we're going to be doing in a second now. Okay. This is a class. I'm not going to lecture you. You've got the notes in front of you, so you can see what I'm going to be saying. I do want to have dialogue. I do want to have participation. At the same time, we need to keep our comments concise because we want to try and get through as much material as we can. I don't need a lecture from anybody, but certainly I want to have your thoughts, okay? And I'm not going to try and lecture you either. So let's start from the beginning. The historical views of theological interpretation. Some scholars see Jesus as a Torah faithful Jew whose teachings arose out of a Jewish theological currents. Okay, everybody know what the Torah is exactly? Jerry.
Yeah, it's the Jewish law and how they constructed their own society at the same time.
Okay.
Yes, he was a Jewish because he had to be.
Yeah.
He was considered a.
Yeah, he was. Good. Everybody know what books of the Bible that they consider the Torah? First five. Yeah, exactly. Okay. Jesus lived in a totally Jewish culture his whole life. He didn't interact that much with people outside, but he did some, right? More than what maybe most Jewish people did. Number two, many contributors do not accept Jesus as the Messiah in Jewish theological terms. Okay. Anybody have anything to say about that with being the Messiah? Okay. I noticed that I was driving by Seminole the other day, and there's a Jewish synagogue right across the street from Mercy. Good morning. How are you, Monique? I don't know. Has somebody noticed that before? Okay. And on the sign, it says Messianic Jewish synagogue. And which is kind of unique because there are synagogues who do believe in Jesus as the Messiah. Okay. And so, but they're in the minority. And I just thought it was interesting about that church. I know there's another Jewish. Go ahead.
And there's my understanding too. There are some Messianic Jews that did not believe that Jesus was the Messiah,
Right.
but that they're still awaiting.
Messiah. Yeah. Okay. You're right. Very few Jews accept Jesus as the Messiah, by the way. Let's have someone read number 3. I don't want to hear myself talk. Go ahead. Hang up on the microphone.
The affirmation that calling Jesus God is generally unacceptable from a Jewish theological standpoint appears in several essays. Idolatry, if strictly Jewish.
Okay, good. I didn't know I had idolatry as strictly Jewish on that time. Did I put that on the sheet? Okay.
Yeah.
That's not on my sheet.
What does that mean?
Okay. In Judaism, in pure technical terms, when you worship anyone who claims that they're God, that's idol worship. Okay?
How do you know if who's claiming to be God is really God?
Go ahead, say that again.
How do you know if who's claiming to be God is really God?
Good point. Okay. Jerry?
I'm new thought, I claim to be God.
Probably good you didn't have a microphone, Jerry.
Well, at the same time, I am that I am.
Okay. So in Judaism, if they're pressed, they're gonna say that absolutely this is not part of their religion, that any one person can be God, okay? Or can be only, that person is the only God. And so that would be considered idolatry in Judaism. Now, they acknowledge that if Christians, I'm not saying New Thought and Unity, I'm saying the mainstream Christian religion, they do accept that Jesus is God. Okay, and I'm actually going to be doing a talk on this later on, so I don't want to get into this too heavily. But,
Never mind.
all right. Any other thoughts on that one before we move on? Jerry? Real quick?
We're all God.
Yeah, we are. We are all God. Exactly. And I think that's what we believe that Jesus taught too, right? Yeah.
If we're meant to be in the image of God, then where does it stop from us becoming God? I think that's
Good question.
Number 4, someone read that. Someone near John. Sue.
However, a few voices explore ideas like Christ consciousness or Jesus as a model of divine union or mystical insight.
I think that's pretty close to what we believe, isn't it? Okay. That would be something, a very close connection between Judaism and New Thought. Number 5, go ahead, John.
Some authors argue that Jesus' teachings often parallel rabbinic sayings, especially Hillel-like ethics.
Are people familiar with Hillel, by the way?
No,
I'm not.
Okay. Hillel was a rabbi that lived at the exact same time as Jesus. Okay, and in the Jewish faith, Hillel was very famous, okay, because he was very, very wise, and a lot of people thought maybe Jesus even might have known Hillel. There's one story that always sticks in my mind when I do think of Hillel, and that is, he had I don't even know if this story is true, but I've heard it many, many times. There's a student to be that came up to Hillel and he said, if you can say the Torah standing on one leg, I'll be your student. And so Hillel goes, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. The rest is commentary. Now go study. I always like that story. Okay, number 6. Someone. Peter? You good to read? No?
No, not today.
Okay. Over we go.
6.
Yeah, number 6.
The idea that Jesus abolished the law is identified as a later Christian theological construction, not a historical conclusion.
Okay. A lot of Christians believe that Jesus came to change the law, right, to abolish it. And the authors in this book are saying that, no, that's not what Jesus. Jesus was here to what we call mashal. Okay, he came to argue. He came to debate. He came to be controversial, and that's a very Jewish thing. And that was just part of their religion. That was not. He was not trying to. Again, he was not trying to start a religion. Go ahead, Wendy.
So I just had a question for clarification. What exactly would the Jews have thought? Who would they have thought the Messiah was? If it's not someone to worship, if it's
Right.
not someone, just so we get a clarity of what the Jews.
Just real quickly, because I do want to keep moving. The Messiah, in their opinion, never came. Okay,
Right,
but the Messiah was really more of a political figure that was going to bring them, safety and everything. It wasn't so much a spiritual figure; it was more of a political figure. Now, I may be not totally accurate in that, but that's my understanding. Dan?
Well, for better or worse, I think a lot of popular culture was determined by the movie Ben-Hur, because that was a depiction of Jesus, the life of Jesus, and how he impacted the law at that time.
Yeah.
And I think whatever that said as popular culture ultimately filtered into the idea of, oh, that's what it was, and that's who he was.
Yeah.
So we go a long way in interpreting what was really meant by such a thing, whether it's true or not.
Yeah. Good. Let's see what we got here. Number 7. Let's try and move fast. Someone read.
Jesus sometimes described as Galilean Hasid. As a Galilean Hasid, a holy man devoted to God rather than a founder of a separate religion.
Okay. Jesus didn't start a religion. We can all agree on that, right? Okay. He stayed Jewish his whole life, and a lot of the authors feel like he was a holy man. If a lot of Jewish people do think Jesus was absolutely a phenomenal teacher, and was very spiritual, and was one of the best that came from the Jewish religion. They don't see him as the Messiah. They don't see him as, God. They see him as one of them, as a teacher. Number 8. Go ahead, D.
Some writings emphasize Jesus' love of God and Torah as central to his identity.
Okay. And I think we can all agree upon that. Just from writings in the Bible, we see that Jesus had a love for everyone. Jesus had a love for not just people around him, but everyone. And the Torah. Yeah.
I was going to say that Jesus really interacted, like you say, mostly with Jewish people. He was teaching the Hebrews at the time, and really the whole idea of his teachings being going to non-Christians was really Paul.
It was, and that's a good point, because during Jesus' lifetime, he pretty much just taught to Jewish people. It wasn't until decades, really probably about at least 100 years after his death, that Paul especially was responsible for a lot of this, but teaching. So the first 100 years, let's say, pretty much all Christians were Jewish. after that, then the whole poll, began more with people outside of the Jewish faith, with Gentiles.
Where did the term Christianity even come from, seeing as Jewish, Jesus specifically spoke Aramaic? That sounds like a very modern word for their language.
Anybody answer
and
that?
the
I'm
word
not even
Christ,
sure myself. Where did the word Christianity start? Does somebody know?
I think it was,
Jerry.
yeah, it's maybe 180 years ago, 190 years ago, the beginning of the Protestant religion. Or at least that's how I see it. 1500. 1500.
Okay. Okay.
It's recent, very recent.
Okay. Dan, you're going to say something on that? Oh, hang on, Dan. Go ahead.
Wasn't Jesus, wasn't his main thrust of reinterpreting much of the Torah?
Yes.
You have heard it said that you shall love your enemy,
Yeah.
you shall love your friends,
I
and
think
hate
the
your
thing,
enemy, but I say to you, and so forth.
yeah, I think that the way that a Jewish person would see that is that Jesus wasn't putting our law down. Jesus was maybe taking that, as I say in Mashal, it's all about creating this kind of tension. And so Jesus was pushing the limits. And that's very acceptable in Jewish faith. And that's what they say Jesus was doing.
Well, I think it was the Roman culture that who did not want to associate with like the Jewish idea of who he was,
Yeah.
and needed another almost like Jewish like idea of, okay, let's call it a Christian. I think that's what it was, the Romans who, I think, formulated that idea that gave you more freedom to use the terminology as a Christian, make it what you wanted it to be, more than the Jewish that was already pretty well defined.
Isn't it interesting that the head of what we call the beginning of Christianity, Roman Catholicism, where is it located? It's so interesting that Christianity is based out of Rome. The Vatican, right? Okay, just a comment. Okay. Number 9. Someone read that, John?
Several contributions note the tragic consequences of how later Christian theology misinterpreted or distanced him from Judaism.
Okay. We can see some tragic consequences because I would say World War II, the Holocaust, a lot of that comes from, how many people have you seen that have this anti-Semitic attitude towards Jews because they think that they're the ones who persecuted, Jesus?
That's a historic,
Yeah.
very much a historic idea.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm just saying here that the authors are saying that there are some tragic consequences. They don't blame Jesus. That I want to be clear on that, but they do say that later Christian theology misinterpreted things, and we had some consequences. Right?
Christianity has been around since the 30 to 32 AD.
Oh, okay. All right. Conclusion of theology. Let's go to number 1. Someone want to read that?
There's a clear and respectful explanation of why Jewish theology cannot affirm Jesus as Messiah or God. Contributors object to Jesus as divine, as uniquely incarnate, nor as the final Messiah.
Okay. Historically, the Messiah theology started.
Doesn't that kind of contradict itself?
Okay, tell me.
Well, first, if they don't believe he is the Messiah, then to say that he is not the final Messiah doesn't make sense.
the word nor is not supposed to be in there, it should be or.
Ah.
Yeah. Yeah. I corrected my own paper, but I didn't correct yours. Dan?
Well, I always have a tendency to interject China somewhere along the way. But the divinity, the idea of being divine, there was that emperor in about 100 BC who said that both Confucius and Lao were divine and should be treated as such.
Okay.
So with the emperor saying it's okay, then
Yeah.
popular culture
Yeah.
moved in that direction.
Yeah.
So the idea of what we may define as divinity,
Mm-hmm.
we decide
Yeah.
what is divine.
Yeah.
We each decide that.
I know back, I didn't want to get into this too much, but in Nicene history, when, we did start this thing that was called the Bible, men voted on the Bible, what was going to be in the Bible, who Jesus was. And there were a lot of Christians. In fact, there were more Christians early on that did not believe that Jesus was, divine. However, you're right, the Roman connection, those people that wanted to elevate Jesus, put him on a pedestal, those were the ones that went out. And they actually killed people that didn't want to believe that. So,
When you say they wanted out, what do you mean?
wanted out.
Yeah, isn't that what you said?
I,
When you say they wanted a way out, is that what you said?
I don't remember saying that. Did I say they wanted a way out?
Maybe I misunderstood.
I'm not quite sure.
Okay.
Anybody have any comment on that? Because I don't know quite what.
I probably not on that, but it makes sense. One of the challenges here in this church is without a strong theology that it sometimes is one of the things that we would be a lot stronger if we had people going, yeah, this is the way it is. This is the way it is. This is the way it is.
Yeah.
And by making Jesus deity, there's nothing to argue with on that.
Yeah, exactly. Good point. Very, very good point. And I think a lot of people, that's all the farther they can go, right?
And I don't want to go down a rabbit hole,
Right.
but also if you look at how like all royalty,
Yeah.
all the royals of Europe and so on and so forth, they claimed deityship, which then
Right.
it was a power grab.
But the
Okay, we just have a couple minutes before we're changing sheets here.
Okay.
the emperor in China had the same deity claim. He was the son of what they visioned of who God made the deity, and that gave him power over anyone else.
Well, divine because I say I'm divine.
Well, we're all
I
Well, I mean, if we look at it in that thought, we are supposed to be created in his image and likeness. So
Yeah.
any part of sickness or feeling not right shouldn't even exist.
Okay, I don't have a comment on that.
although that's something that we believe.
Yeah. Where are we at? Number 2? Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, Jesus is often understood as a failed or unfinished messianic claimant, or not a claimant at all. And that last one comment would be my belief. I don't believe Jesus came and claimed that he was anything other than the Son of Man, and that later writings tried to make him as the Messiah. That's my belief. We all have our own beliefs. But, Jerry.
Well, how can you create a new hierarchy if you do not have a king in place?
Okay.
Okay,
Good
that
point.
way nobody can talk to the king but me, and so if you need something,
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Okay, I'm listed 3. Several essays stress that Judaism already has a robust understanding of closeness to God, making incarnation unnecessary. Okay. Any comments on that? I don't really want to get into that too much, but are we good? Jerry, do you have a comment?
Well, they mustered out incarnations just because they couldn't keep you in fear if they had incarnations. If you knew you were an infinite being,
Yeah.
you could not fear whatever they said you had to fear.
And if you didn't incarnate, you wouldn't be.
You doing what?
If one didn't incarnate, it wouldn't even be there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's true. Okay, I'm going to go on to number 4. Importantly, rejection of divinity is not a rejection of Jesus' spiritual depth or moral authority. So, in other words, the authors, we're going the rabbis, the scholars in Jewish theology, they're saying that Jesus was very spiritual. He did have moral authority, and yet we reject that he was divine. Okay. Mystical and spiritual readings, number 1. Jesus is interpreted as someone who realized the divine potential present in all humans. Gee, doesn't that sound familiar?
That is right on the button. Yeah.
And number 2, these perspectives often align with Jewish mysticism, which is called Kabbalah, or modern spiritual philosophy. Have other people heard of the Kabbalah? Okay, so you are familiar with that somewhat. And the Kabbalah, it really started, I'm thinking it was about 1,000 years ago, but it really has its roots going all the way back into Old Testament times. That would be called Jewish mysticism. So, okay, let's go ahead and skip on over to the next page we got there. And this is the important part of the talk to me. How does this relate to unity? Okay. The author invites us to encounter Jesus as Jews encounter him, not to convert, refute Christianity, or defend Judaism. Okay, so in unity, what do? We say, everybody, we accept whatever it is that you believe, right? Okay, we're not going to dictate to you what to believe. And I love that about unity. I love that. Now, Charles and Myrtle they started something that we do call unity, and other people started other things that we put under an umbrella called New Thought, which unity is under that umbrella also. And so it's a dialogue. It's a thing that grows. It's a thing that's alive, because we are all part of that. Yeah.
Something that Glenn Mosley used to tell me years ago, and he was the instructor for Unity ministers throughout everywhere.
Yeah.
And it was the strength of unity and the strength of the ministers within unity is when you get out of divinity school, you could define what unity meant as it spoke through you.
Yeah.
And I think that was the strength of unity, certainly from his vantage point.
I agree with it.
From the vantage point of there's basic principles you need to know and understand that we think you should follow,
Yeah.
but it needs to mirror your own sense of identity and self because it has to come through you.
Okay.
And I think that was really important for what the freedom that unity gave the ministers to decide for themselves, okay, this is what unity is and this is how I want to speak about it.
It's my opinion too that if New Thought, if New Thought tied or tried to understand the historical aspects of the early writings and Judaism, I think we would find out that we do have a lot of very, very similar beliefs. When we try and identify ourselves in mainstream Christianity, there's a lot of differences, a lot more differences. Let me put it that way. There's a lot of similarities too, but there's a lot more differences. Number 2. Can anybody read number 2?
What's this?
NT means new thought.
Okay. Unity, New Thought, teaches that Jesus was not uniquely divine, but uniquely conscious of the Christ.
Pretty much unity,
So
isn't
they're
it?
saying that
Yeah.
the Christ is separate from Jesus?
Yes. Everybody want to talk about that, Sue? Or Don? Go ahead.
I think that the term uniquely here is quite significant.
Okay.
Because Jesus is not uniquely divine.
Yeah.
We are all divine.
We're all divine. Correct.
That's a very good point.
Okay.
And remember that Jesus did say, he said, everything I can do, you can do and more. And he's saying that.
Good
It's
point.
not just him, it's all of us.
Okay. Judaism feels the same way that we do about this. Okay. That Christ was not Jesus's last name.
Where did the H come from?
Right.
Well,
So
yeah, well, I think it's Hector, but I'm not sure. Okay, number 3, John.
Unity, New Thought. Jesus is the way shower, not the exception.
There's unity, isn't it? Jesus is the way shower, not the exception. Jesus may have been a great, great teacher, but we don't put him on the pedestal. We don't bow down. We don't worship. Right? Okay. So he's the way shower. That's the same as in Judaism. Number 4.
Could I kind of answer
Go ahead.
the question?
Yeah.
She's asked. So the Christ consciousness, as opposed to being the person, Jesus Christ. Christ consciousness is that when any human has connection with source, that's considered Christ consciousness. That awareness of source, of what some people call God, what
You don't,
that something that's inside of us that's connected with everything else, with all of creation.
So you're saying we enter our.
Yes.
Okay.
but
Make it concise, Dan.
But that consciousness isn't exclusive to the Christian faith.
Mhm.
Or
No.
it's not exclusive of yet.
Right.
We call it Christ consciousness,
Right.
but it can be the consciousness of the universal.
Right. Christ goes back all the way in time, way before
It can be
Christianity.
everything.
Yes.
It can be inclusive.
Right.
And I think the more we talk about unity encompassing that, I
Right.
think the more people are more attracted
Yeah.
to who you are and who I want to become as well.
Number 4, both Jews and Unity New Thought see Jesus as a model rather than metaphysically abnormal. There is an emphasis on realization rather than incarnation. Holiness is attainable to all, not exclusive. And that's what we
What is it?
that's what we were just. I'm sorry?
Holy.
Holiness, yeah. Holiness is attainable to all, right? We all have the ability to become close to God. We all have the ability to be spiritual. We all have that connection, okay? All of us. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Peter.
Yeah, excuse me, we have that, but I would say probably more correctly say
Hold it up.
we have to become aware of that.
Yeah.
You know, it's like scraping away drops. You know, cleaning it up a little bit.
Thanks, Peter. Yeah.
Instead of acquiring.
I think that's what we're all here for.
Just all cover it up.
Yeah. Thank you, Peter. Number 5. Who wants to read? Sue.
Unity New Thought explicitly distinguishes Jesus, the man, from the Christ, the divine idea. The Christ is universal, impersonal, and eternal.
Judaism believes this also.
And the Tao as well. That is what the Tao is.
Okay.
And the Buddhism as well.
Yeah, Buddhism too. Very much so.
Thank you. Number 6. Richard, you want to read that one?
Both Unity and Judaism have a shared discomfort with the Nicene formulations.
Amen.
Anybody have any disagreement on
I
that?
missed that one. What was it?
The Nicene formulations were when they put the Christian religion together. It happened 435, something like that.
333.
333? Okay.
About
I'm
333.
100 years off.
And it took several years for
I think for me, the underlying contradictions, you always look back to why things are the way they occur.
Yeah.
And you look at the 4,500 years that preceded the Nicene activity in Constantinople, was what were the underlying contradictions that made them decide that the Bible should be this way, or the Bible should only say this and not that. And I think that's always been an undercurrent as to what the true meaning was supposed to be.
If it was written by multiple people, then how can it have one true meaning? Exactly.
That's a good point.
Say it again.
I said if it was written by multiple people, how can it have one true meaning?
Wendy.
I can write a book and I can take the ideas of many people and make them mean what I want the book to mean by how I edit it and what I put in and everything. So that's I think why and how it's
divine inspiration.
Inspired by
I
God.
don't know.
Like being an editor,
The male
being an editor as to your writing and how you live, what you want to go by. I think one of the things back to Nicaea and the idea of reaching a consensus as to what would best go forward within the Roman construct at the time, that we're all going to be Christians. So what does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that ultimately those contradictions led to what they ultimately decided what it should be.
Thank you, Dan. 7. Unity New Thought interprets the law metaphysically as spiritual principle. Judaism and New Thought agree that Jesus deepens the law rather than negates it. Okay. Everybody agree?
Yes.
Okay. Number 8, Judaism and New Thought see Messiah as a state of consciousness, not a political figure.
Didn't we just say that earlier that he got rid of the law?
No,
No.
I never did say that.
The overturn. You
Yeah.
talk about overturning.
Well, that's what a lot of Christians believe, is that he overturned the law. And these Jewish scholars in the book are saying, no, that's not true. That Jesus came here to be part of the whole Jewish process. He didn't come here to change the law.
Yeah.
Okay. Look at your sheet. I think that you'll see that.
It just said the idea that Jesus abolished the law. Number 6.
Yeah. Jerry, you have a quick comment? We have to be quick now.
Just the Hillel,
The Hillel?
yeah, it just explains the completion of the law.
Yeah.
You know, do unto others as you would.
Exactly.
Love you. Yeah.
There you go. I love that story because when it comes right down to it, I mean, all religions, isn't that what you're about?
Of virtue.
That we treat each other as we want to be treated. If we can only see that, wow, what a world.
Well, by the way.
Number 9, John.
Judaism and New Thought rejects Jesus as a separate divine being or God. God is a universal presence, not an embodied exception.
And one thing that's one of the authors put in here is, why should Jesus be the one exception in history that somehow is God and nobody else has been thousands of years, millions of years before him or any time after? I mean, it just, logically speaking, it just doesn't make sense.
Well, there is, anthropologically speaking, there's a lot of ethnocentrism among a lot of different cultures where they, well, we're, the people, a lot of Native American cultures call themselves the people, and everybody
That's
else
true.
is, less than, or whatever, and they have, their own individual creation stories and so on and so forth. And I think it's an example of ethnocentrism.
How is that any different from a Hindu, Buddhist, Taoist having their creation story? I kind of got a negative connotation from that as far as, their beliefs and cultural understanding and acceptance.
John,
Make it 15.
in China today, there's such a thing as the family church.
Mm-hmm.
And it's for anyone believing in the Christian faith.
Mhm.
But you could still have all these other beliefs out here that people would want to follow if they would want to.
Mhm.
It's just a matter of definition as to how you want to proceed to identify.
Thank you. I'm not sure how to answer your question. By the way, what's your name?
Charity?
Terry, thank you.
No,
Terry.
charity. Like faith, hope, and charity?
Oh, Charity. Okay, thank you, Charity. Well, first of all, we're just talking about Judaism, so I don't want to get into all the other religions. But if you ask these authors, they all accept all other religions. Okay, and all other religions do have some of them think they do have a deity. Some of them don't. Buddhism doesn't. They don't accept Buddha as God. Taoism, as far as I know, doesn't accept, Lao Tzu as God. Now some do. You look at the Islamic faith. Well, I don't know if I'd say that they believe that Muhammad was God, but they certainly thought he was the prophet and was the last prophet. Wendy.
I just think why Jesus was more so than a lot of others is they already had this Messiah story going around.
Mm-hmm.
And all they had to do was attach him to that.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just his story, it
Yeah.
was the two in combination.
Thank you. Could you read the next one, John? Number 11, I believe. 10? I'm sorry, 10.
Judaism and New Thought see I and the Father are one as universal truth.
Okay. Now, so, if you ask a mainstream Christian, they're going to say, well, that means Jesus and the Father are one. In Unity and New Thought and Judaism, it's no, all of us and the Father are one. Yeah, that's what that means.
When I do, you can.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. Number 11, go ahead, John.
Both Judaism and New Thought have a strong discomfort and reject outright the substitutionary atonement, a belief that Jesus died on a cross as a substitute for humanity, taking the penalty. In Unity and New Thought, the cross symbolizes surrender of the ego and invites awakening.
Good. You've heard it said many times. Mainstream Christianity is going to say Jesus died for your sins. Right? How many times have I heard that growing up? First of all, we don't even believe in sin. Second of all, we look at it metaphysically. Okay, and I think in Judaism they're going to reject it or have a strong discomfort with that substitutionary atonement also. It might not be in the same light and understanding that we have, but it's in the same vein. Okay, number 12. Unity and New Thought rejects original sin. I just said that, didn't I? Judaism and New Thought concentrate on growth rather than guilt. Okay. How many of you grew up in a conservative Christian church? Oh boy. Guilt and fear, was that a part of your program?
Are you talking to me?
I'm talking to everybody.
I grew up, my dad was a minister
Okay.
when I was very young, and then since then, my mom practices her own path of paganism, and my dad Buddhism. So,
Wow,
yeah,
that's
I've
very
been exposed
impressive.
to a lot of stuff.
Wendy. Wendy wants to say something.
So what did the Jewish, for me, the whole story of Christ, the most important thing that comes out of that is his showing us that we are not just this body, that we're more than that. The idea of him coming back. The idea
You're talking about Christ or Jesus?
The story of Jesus where he comes back.
Okay.
How is that depicted in the Jewish?
I can't really speak for them, and I didn't write anything down. That's such a broad topic, and again, I want to do a talk on this in church sometime, and so I don't want to get into that right now. But I think a Jewish person would say, what happened when Jesus was alive is very different than what was written about 100 years later. Okay, and so how many things have been, what's the word?
Reinterpreted.
Reinterpreted or
Embellished.
Embellished, it would be a good word, yeah.
Well, if you want to talk about Jesus, at the time he was alive in Alexandria, Alexander had come through 200 years earlier and brought Hindu and others from the east and that's a lot of the reason why Alexandria became the Mecca of learning. The library was there, considered one of the 7 great wonders of the world. The library. The people at the time who considered themselves of the Jewish faith, and i.e. Jesus as well, knew that.
Mm-hmm.
They were aware of Hindu. They were aware of these other thoughts that were preeminent at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we talk about the Jewish faith at the time of Jesus, we have to recognize that these other things were current and accepted, and Jesus saw that as well.
Yeah. Isn't it interesting that in the Bible, there's no record of Jesus between the age of 12 and 30? Right. What happened? Let's go into number 13. In Unity New Thought, Christ's truth appears across religions. Now, we were just talking about that a few minutes ago. There's no exclusive path to God. Judaism teaches religious pluralism and respect without assimilation. Okay, now that's important because in mainstream Christianity, they do teach religious, what's the word?
Exclusivism?
When they're the only one.
Exclusivity.
Exclusivity, okay.
Isolation.
And then they're going to be putting other religions down, saying, unless you believe Jesus Christ is your own personal Lord and Savior, you're going to hell. Okay? You're not going to find that in Judaism at all. Okay? You're not going to find that in Unity or New Thought at all. Okay. I'm just going to touch on Mashal.
Can I ask?
Go ahead, Sue.
What I wanted to ask you is, I think there's so much in this that I would like to hear you explain more. Would you consider doing another class on the rest of what's here?
Sure.
Because we didn't get to
we
the
did.
other sides of them, and to go home and just read it.
Yeah.
I can talk to you, but
Yeah.
would you consider doing that?
Yeah, I would love to. And maybe my next class, which is going to be March 29th, maybe I can do that.
Yeah, I think that would be great. Also, do you know if Judaism believes in reincarnation?
It depends on who you talk to.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't think there is one belief that
I vote
it
for
is.
it.
Yeah, you vote for it? Okay. I'm going to touch on Mishal here because we literally only have about 4 minutes left. In Judaism, there is,
I'm sorry, it won't even turn down.
in Judaism, argument is a big thing. And so they have a lot of commentary between scholars and everything, and that's been a part of their religion for literally centuries. It's not so much we don't have that kind of thing in the Christian religion. It's like you just believe, and that's pretty much it. Mashal is something that's been going on in Jewish theology forever. And Mashal is really, it's like speaking in parables. Okay? We all say that Jesus spoke in parables, right? And some of these stories, we know what the hell would that mean? But, okay, so Mashal is a story drawn from ordinary life that hides meaning until we reflect on it, right? And so that's where all the commentary comes in, okay? Invites debate. They like to have that argument. It's like, what does this mean? What does that mean? Often ends unresolved. Sometimes we never do figure out what the heck is being said, okay? And is meant to disturb complacency. Now, isn't that what Jesus was doing?
Yeah.
Wasn't he speaking in parables? Wasn't he hiding a lot of the meaning until we really look at it deeply? Wasn't he inviting debate? Wasn't he often telling a story that really is kind of unresolved or is meant to disturb? Yeah, real quick, we only have 2 minutes.
Okay, making people think beyond what they think they know.
Good point. I love that. Number 2, Jesus' parables would have sounded as familiar, sharp, and deeply rooted in Judaism's own teaching culture, not as Christian stories, but as rabbinic mashalism, parable stories. Okay, so new thought follows this. Mainstream Christianity doesn't. Okay, we teach the Bible from a metaphysical perspective. Now, that's not exactly the way that Judaism teaches it, but it's a heck of a lot closer than what Christianity is. And I'm going to leave it at that. You can read these other things, and I will continue on March 29th, and we can have further discussion then too, because I know I had to rush you in the comments. I apologize for that, but I did want to cover more of the material. So with that, thank you very much. Thank you. Appreciate it. I'll go ahead and read the announcements, and maybe you could post them. Thank you, Brenda. Okay, it's time to start planning our 9th annual Planet Unity Earth Day celebration. Please join us for our first meeting today, right after the service. Come see what it's all about. And if you haven't been part of Planet Unity, I really think you would love it. And it happens close to Earth Day every year. We're having that meeting here right after church. Join us this evening and every Sunday at 6 p.m. for a peaceful meditation session. Come enjoy a quiet space to relax, reflect, reconnect. All are welcome. The church office is closed tomorrow, Martin Luther King Day. And I know that the gathering is starting at what used to be called Jordan Valley Ice Rink. It's called something else now.
Yeah, that's what I always begin to walk.
What's that? That's where they're beginning to walk, yeah. And then they walk down to the Glory's Theater.
Right.
And so
At 8:30.
8:30. I encourage everybody to join Martin Luther King Day. The monthly board meeting is this Tuesday, January 20th at 6 p.m. Everyone welcome. This Saturday from 1 to 3, Reverend Diane Kennedy is coming to do a workshop. You can sign up at the connection table. There's a suggested love offering of 15, but no one's going to be turned away.
What's the theme?
For Diane Kennedy, Sue, do you know? Okay. I don't know what it is either. Mary, do you know what Diane Kennedy's talking about?
She talked about visioning and like making our vision stronger or something.
Okay, all right. Next Sunday for our celebration service, Diana Kennedy will be our guest speaker. Diana has been a Unity True student since 1991 and a Unity minister since 2013. Based near Unity Village, she serves with Unity Worldwide Ministries, supporting leaders and churches around the world. She also works as a life coach, writer, and speaker, and is devoted to helping people connect with their true inner self. Is there still a Unity Worldwide Ministries now that they have joined together? Is that?
It hasn't completely happened.
It has.
They're working on
Okay.
it.
I'm just curious if that language is still being used. Okay. Join us next Sunday at 9:15 a.m. for our New Thought adult class. Mary Hilsbeck-Huber. You can join in person or watch live on the Unity of Springfield Facebook page. Next Sunday, everyone is encouraged to stay after the service for our annual meeting. This is a big thing. The annual meeting happens what? Annually. So, it only happens once a year. So come next Sunday after church for the annual meeting. This is an opportunity for our spiritual community to come together, celebrate where we've been, and envision what's ahead. Active members will be voting to accept the updated bylaws, and we'll also be electing our new board members. The fourth meeting of our real estate forum will be on the fourth Tuesday of the month for this time only. On the 27th of January at 6 p.m., all are welcome. Our realtor, Ronnie Schibler of Keller Williams in Ozark, will be with us to explain the process of working with a professional agent to find the right property. This is just something really unique that our church does. You know, we do all sorts of things. And, you know, our great member, Norma, is doing this, and she just wanted to do it on real estate. And so if you have any interest in that, this is a great time to really learn a lot. Our next Friendship Sunday potluck is in 2 weeks on February 1st. Bring a friend and a dish to share, and stay after the service for food and fellowship. Okay, let's go ahead and circle up in the back.